One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, glory, glory. Oh, glory, glory.
Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots, we on the ground, the camera panned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, glory, glory, glory. Oh, glory, glory. Now the war is not over, victory isn't won, but we'll fight on to the finish, and then when it's all done, we'll cry glory, oh glory, oh.
Selma is now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing the League of Justice, his power was the people. Enemy is lethal, a king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald ego. No one can win a war individually. It take the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, glory,
Congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Beloved community happens when people come together in an interdependent relationship of love, mutual respect, and care that seeks to realize justice within our community and in the broader world. While we currently recognize the inherent dignity of every person and are committed to justice, our eighth principle asks for a commitment to undertake and a dedicated journey to achieve justice for all oppressions, starting with racism. We have not made much progress over the years, which is why we need to be explicit now. Society has caused each of us to internalize and perpetuate systems of oppression in various ways. Our eighth principle will help us consciously work to end racism and other oppressions while becoming accountable to those within our congregation and in our world who are being oppressed. Welcome to the virtual worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lakeland. I am Tim McLean, worship associate for today, and I prefer the pronouns he and him. Unitarian Universalists know that diversity and pluralism is a strength. To be multicultural, multiracial, and multi-generational is the only way to build the bridge to a new day. This is what we value, not what we fear. What a blessing it is for us to be together this morning. Tom Mead will come forward to light our chalice, and I read a quote from Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., creating this sacred space together. The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence, you may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie, nor establish truth. Through violence, you murder the hater, but do not murder hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. May the light flowing from our chalice this morning carry on in our hearts from this very moment until the end of time. To all our stories, leaving no one behind, finding the radiance in each despite our hardships. Each of us walks a different path, but know that together we are stronger. Our community is sustained by giving of our best selves, our time, our talents, and our treasures. Please take a moment when you're able to write a check to UUCL or to make a donation through the PayPal link found in the chat. Thank you all so much for continuing to be a part of this caring community.
I'm going to throw Rachel and Francesca off here for a sec. Before we play the music and pass the plates, if you don't mind, I'm sorry. I just want to do a moment to reflect collectively. And for those of you who don't know me, good morning. I'm Heather Norby. I'm the Spiritual Life Director for this congregation. And I promise I know the sign language. I just got a little off today. So before we move forward, I'd like for us to center ourselves in truth and meaning. Our fourth UU principle states that we affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. But, as it often is, truth and meaning are under attack. If you've been paying attention to the news, you may have heard that the Florida Department of Education has passed a new law, one that I believe is an attempt to limit our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. As was stated in a recent Ledger article, public officials have touted this new law as a way to get critical race theory out of the classroom. What's interesting, of course, is that critical race theory is not even stated as being a part of the state academic standards. So how exactly this will affect what is being taught is not well understood by educators. Public officials who support this new law have made some seriously erroneous statements about critical race theory. Our Governor DeSantis has notably called critical race theory the practice of teaching kids to hate their country and to hate each other. The guidelines considered by the Board of Education say teachers may not define American history as something other than the creation of a new nation, based largely on universal principles stated in the Declaration of Independence, and they are trying to prohibit teachers from sharing their personal views. But critical race theory is a movement that examines the intersections of race, law, and equity. It is not meant to divide. It is meant to offer a perspective of history through the lens of race and current life in the U.S. that reveals the truth. As ugly as it is or may have been, it asks us to reconcile with it, to give us a deeper understanding of why things are the way they are in this country, and to move forward in a way that is equitable for all. I would like to share this. This was posted on Facebook by the local Black Lives Matter movement, Polk Restoration, Inc. When we think we're going forward, they show us that they don't care about the truth or our history. We have been through so much as a people. Every chance America gets, she will try to make us forget about what we have done to get where we are now. New technology today. Even more importantly, what she has done to stop us, covering the blood on her hands. No one wants to dwell on the past or hear bad things about us, but if against allows us to understand our current situation as Black people in America. But if we know not of the origin of our destruction, then we will assume that we are at the height of our divinity and by nature second-class and disorganized people, while America takes no blame and her citizens no shame. So this new law is nothing more than an attempt to stir up fear so that those in power can stay in power. This is a threat to teachers who, in a classroom setting, are supposed to teach critical thinking and civil discourse, which cannot be done without the sharing of personal views and experiences. This is an attempt to hide the very deep wounds inflicted upon the people of this country who are not white. It is blatantly racist and is an attempt to keep a system of white supremacy alive and well. How will our children find truth when it's being covered up? How will they create meaning if they don't know about the history and experiences of others? How will they learn to listen to different perspectives? How will we be the good ancestors that affirm and promote the free and responsible search for truth and meaning? Affirmation and promotion require action. What will you do, good ancestors?
walking with my face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through muddy waters. You know I got a made up mind, and I don't mind if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I'll fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. And I know what's around the bend might be hard to face 'cause I'm alone, and I just might fail, but Lord knows I'll try. Shasters fill up the sky. Stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Do you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on.
our guest speaker today, Mrs. Doris Moore Bailey, for picking out our music videos. You'll be meeting her in just a few moments. There was a quote at the end of that video. I don't think it showed up, which is okay because it zooms by really fast. And I thought that's a really beautiful quote, and I just want to read it to you all. It was written by Ashley Rich, who was the choreographer for that video. She wrote, "Thank you to our ancestors. May your sacrifices never be forgotten. Thank you, everyone who paved a way for us to be able to walk in freedom today. Your strength has propelled us forward with courage and perseverance. Thank you to every person out there continuing to fight for equality. We appreciate you and your efforts to change the world around us. Let love lead you and hope push you to never give up." So I'd love it if the kids that are here today would come join me up front. This will be the first time in a long time that I've been able to invite the kids forward and talk to them, and I'm really excited. Come on up, have a seat here. Oh, no, I'm gonna sit here. You can sit there on the X, near the X. On the floor. But face me, please, because I want to talk to you. I know it's been so long, sometimes we don't really know what we're doing anymore, do we? It's kind of how I feel today, just a little bit off kilter. Okay, so I have a question. Do you know what the 4th of July is?
The Declaration of Independence.
Okay, it's a celebration of the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. What do we do on the 4th of July?
Set off fireworks.
Set off fireworks. Do you hang out with your family? Eat some food? Yeah, celebrate. Yeah, so it's a celebration of independence, America's independence from England, from that King George, right? They said, we're free. We're free from your stuff. Yeah. Well, have you ever heard of Juneteenth? No. You haven't heard of Juneteenth? So, any guesses on what it might be?
A day to stop racism.
A day to stop racism. That's an awesome guess. Thank you. All right. Well, so our guest speaker today shared a book with me. And I can't read the whole thing, although there's a lot of really great information in here. I'm just learning about Juneteenth a little bit myself. I've heard of it for quite a few years, but I didn't really know what it was all about. And so Mrs. Doris Moore Bailey shared this, and I'm just going to read a little bit to you about what Juneteenth is. Because you see, even though on July 4th, America gained its independence in 1776, it was not until 1863 that the president, Abraham Lincoln, said that enslaved peoples would be free. That's a long time. And so when the Emancipation Proclamation was sent out, it took a while to get to some places because, did they have cell phones in 1863? Computers? No. Cars? No. So it took a while for information to get places. And the last place that the Emancipation Proclamation got to was Galveston, Texas. And on June 19th, 1865, the proclamation was read to the enslaved peoples, and they were set free. And there were shouts and dances and prayers and songs because they could finally get up and leave their hard lives. They could go find their family members, and they could make a life for themselves. So I'm just going to read just a little bit here about how Juneteenth is celebrated and how it's been celebrated since 1866. I can't believe it. That's a long time. Juneteenth is an ethnic holiday which includes the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation and Proclamation Number 3, 2 documents which announce that slaves were free. Juneteenth is the retelling of the legends of how it got its name or why the news was late getting to Texas. It is a day or a week or a month of activities held in museums, parks, amphitheaters, and backyards. Juneteenth is busloads, carloads, trainloads of Texans who, like migratory birds, are drawn back home on June 19th. It's class reunions and family reunions. Juneteenth includes parades, the clip-clop of horse hooves on cobblestone streets, and the rumble of army tanks as they wind their way around blocked-off streets. It is paper flowers on brightly decorated floats, and children pelting bystanders with generous handfuls of candy. It is cowboys and cowgirls sitting high on prancing horses. It's sporting events such as baseball, foot races, and rodeos. Juneteenth is children romping and playing in shady places. It is also mountains of food and the smell of barbecue ribs cooking on open fires. It's the cool taste of chilled watermelon and creamy homemade ice cream. Juneteenth is music, the mellow sounds of blues and the upbeat tempo of gospel. Finally, Juneteenth is the red, white, and blue of the American flag and the brilliant bursts of fireworks. Juneteenth festivals crisscross the United States. Texas to Georgia, New York to California, Virginia to Arizona, and Louisiana to Washington, D.C. In a very real sense, Juneteenth is the July 4th equivalent for Black Americans. Their freedom celebration, which has become an expression of Black pride, solidarity, and cultural tradition. Now you know a little bit more, yeah? So why do you think it's important that we know? You know? No? Well, I think it's important because I want to be in good relationship with people. And lots of other people in this community and in Lakeland and Polk County and Florida and the United States have different histories and different experiences. And I know that I should listen and learn so that we know how to move forward together in good relationship. What do you think? Yeah, because I think getting to truth and meaning is really important. And truth and meaning means we need to listen and learn. And I'm so glad that we are learning today from Mrs. Bailey, and I appreciate that she lent us this book. So I'm just going to give you just a printout of our 4th principle today, that we affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and you can take those with you and think about them throughout the week, talk to your family about them. What does it mean? How do we find truth and meaning? Because you're the future of Unitarian Universalism, so it matters what you think, okay? Now, you get to go out with Melissa and Jerry. I don't know what you're going to do, but you're free to go. Thank you so much. It was so good to be with you today. It really was. I miss our kids. So good to be together. Well, I am now very pleased to present to you our special guest speaker, Doris Moore Bailey. She'll be on Zoom. Doris graduated from Michelle Senior High School here in Lakeland and then went on to receive her degree from Texas College in 1976, where she majored in history with a minor in political science. Doris's professional employment includes an adjunct professor position at Polk Community College, now Polk State College, Girl Scouts Director of Marketing and Innovation, and a position in the Ledger newsroom, among many other things. Doris is currently the president of the African American Chamber of Commerce of Polk County, treasurer of the African American Historical Museum of Lakeland, the Juneteenth National Regional Director of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. She's on the Lakeland Now Digital News Board of Directors and the Kathleen High School Advisory Committee. Doris is also the founder of Florida Buffalo Soldiers, 9th and 10th Cavalry, and she is a member of the New Bethel AME Church. Among the very long list of other positions she has held in the past, Doris has also served as president of the Lakeland branch NAACP and the National Congress of Black Women Polk County chapter. She's been married for 44 years, mother of 2 adult children, 1 son and a daughter, a doting grandmother of 4 adorable grandsons, 1 goddaughter and 1 godson. And her hobbies include reading, traveling, collecting crystal clocks, listening to jazz music, sharing news briefs, taking pictures, and plants. Doris certainly sounds like one busy woman. So how lucky are we that she is here with us today to spend time teaching and sharing her experiences with Juneteenth, the celebration of freedom. And Doris, I'm going to hand it over to you.
The opportunity to speak to you this morning or share history as it relates to Juneteenth. Heather, thank you so much for the introduction, and for the 2 young men or boys who were there and you shared the Juneteenth story. I'd like to present at a later time a $2 bill, which will be framed. That's what I usually give all of our youth for Juneteenth. So I would like to do that for them as well. I need to know their names so that I can get that to them, or to you or Brendan. So thank you so much. I invite all of you to attend the Juneteenth celebration Saturday, June 19th at the Coleman Bush Building, starting at 3 o'clock. We'll have vendors there. We will have Lakeland Regional Hospital there providing wellness information regarding heart, and it's very prominent in our community. My mother transitioned from a massive heart attack, and of course we'll have One Blood there, and of course the young people will be able to get food, and we talked about barbecue and all of that, so that will be available. So I just want to start off there and to say that I am an African American, and I'm not the lesser, which is some people may say Black. I'm African American, and I will explain why before I begin my talk about Juneteenth. But I was born in the South, in Alabama, and at the age of 2, my father and mother and sister, myself, we migrated to Texas and then came to Florida in 1954, and I've been here since until I left to live in New Jersey, Texas, and Atlanta, GA, and returned to Florida. So I was born in the United States, therefore I'm a citizen of the United States, and of course, 35% of my DNA is of African descendants. So therefore, I denounced the word Black, and I am embracing African American, and so that you will hear me refer to African American throughout my life. So with that aside, I'd like to share my slide presentation with you as it relates to Juneteenth and my history that I've learned through the way I am a national director, as was stated. And so one of the things that we do is learn about our history. And through this journey, we have also received national recognition from the Library of Congress as being subject matters experts relating to Emancipation and Juneteenth. And therefore, I would like to begin now by sharing my presentation of Juneteenth. Now, we are not free, we are free-ish, because there are still struggles as you have noted in your reading, Heather, and as we all know, and especially with the actions that more states than we can probably count presently have passed these suppression laws to keep African Americans from voting, and certainly with Governor DeSantis' latest action about sharing the history. So As it relates to history, a quote that I would like to share with you is by Marcus Garvey: "A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." 83% of all true Americans with African ancestry have African American, they have Indian blood in them. So this is just a theme for this year. None are free until all are free, and we're honoring our ancestors by doing so. I will share with you later on about the Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Juneteenth is a time to reflect, rejoice, and it is in African 76, July 4th, as Heather has read already to the youth. The enslaved Africans were in the fields working. And one thing about that, economics was an opportunity for the slaves in the South. And so we'll see a little bit more about that as I move along. Dr. Elzo J. Reddick, who is also a cousin, lives in Orlando, Florida as a state legislator. He sponsored the second Juneteenth bill in the United States. Texas was the first in 1980, and of course in 1991. The bill was sponsored in 1992. It was signed into law by the late Governor. He was also a minister, and I said was passed because he's now deceased. He transitioned in 2018. And so this is Dr. Ronald A. Myers. And these are some of the states who have all passed state legislation, and here are some of the years. And of course, Florida is on here at the bottom. The Juneteenth mission is to bring together all people to celebrate our common bond of freedom through the recognition, observance, education, and historical preservation of Juneteenth in America. Together, we plan to see Juneteenth become an Independence Day, a national day of observance in America. And so the June campaign has begun, and it continues to this day. And again, the goal of Juneteenth is to pass the U.S. Congress, bill is to pass the U.S. Congress to recognize Juneteenth, June the 19th, as a national day of observance. And all Americans, regardless of creed, color, culture, religion, country of origin, shall share a common love of respect for freedom, as well as the determination to protect their rights to freedom through a democratic institution by which tenets of freedoms are guaranteed and protected. The 19th of June, or Juneteenth Independence Day, along with the 4th of July, completes the cycle of freedom for all Americans, and of course, American Independence Day observance. Until all are free, none are free. And so you will hear that refrain throughout. In 1968, Juneteenth received another strong resurgence through the Poor People March in Washington, D.C. The Reverend Ralph Abernathy called for people of all races, creeds, economic levels, and professions to come to Washington to show support for the poor. Many of these attendees returned home and initiated Juneteenth celebrations in areas previously absent of such activities. Most recently, in 1994, the era of the modern Juneteenth movement began when a group of Juneteenth leaders from across the country gathered in New Orleans, Louisiana, at Christian Unity Baptist Church, where Reverend Dwight Webster, pastor, worked for greater national recognition of Juneteenth. The historic meeting was convened by Reverend John Mosley, director of the National Juneteenth Freedom Celebration. And he will be on my live radio show today at 5 p.m. on 1430. Maafa. Maafa is a Swahili term for terrible occurrence, a great disaster. It refers to the African American Holocaust, here the lesser of the belly of the slave ships or chose death by jumping off and jumping into the sea rather than live in captivity. And of course, we just remembered hearing about Tulsa Race Riot of 1921. There was a 100-year anniversary celebrated also just recently. And I will not go into further information on this slide. But the theme, there's a theme, and on the 18th of June, this is when the memorial wreath laying is celebrated. It's a time to heal and a time to pray. I'm not sure what happened. Bear with me for a moment here. Did I lose you all? Brandon?
No, we're here.
We're still here.
Something has happened. I don't have.
It's okay.
So as I find the slide, I can pretty much, let me share again here. See if I can return. Well, that's strange. Okay, here we are. Okay, so the first day of National Reconciliation Healing is a legacy of enslaved Africans, and that happens on the 18th, as I have already stated before. And that is done in Washington, D.C., and anywhere else around the country who wishes to do that, those persons can do so. Juneteenth Observance congressional bill sponsors are Senator Edward Markey out of Massachusetts. The bill is Senate Bill 475. And of course, we also have Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is sponsoring Bill 1320 to amend Title V United States Code to establish Juneteenth Independence Day as a federal holiday. And today I would like to report that we have now 49 of the 50 states. The outstanding state is South Dakota, who's not signed state legislation. Just recently, we had South Dakota and Hawaii. So now we have 49 of the 49 of the 50 rather. And was explained to the youth early on, and I must reemphasize here, Frederick Douglass, and I must say Frederick Bailey Douglass. On July the 5th, 1852, Douglass gave a speech at an Independence Day celebration. He was troubled by the hypocrisy of a nation celebrating freedom, even though they were actively enslaving and harming people of African descent. In his speech, he requested or asked the question, and I quote, "What to the slave is the 4th of July?" End of quote. He went on to say, and I quote, "The 4th of July is enslavement. They were not sitting around waiting for a handout, only needed a hand up." And of course, as you see here, the images that I'm sharing with you are from a period of time during the 1863-1865 celebration, and the generals here too. Lincoln's view on slavery, and we hear a lot about Lincoln and how President Lincoln at the time, how he freed the slaves. But I must report and share with you that, of course, President Lincoln freed the slaves because it helped to save the Union. Therefore, I will read to you his quote. "If I can save the Union without freeing any slaves, I would do it. If I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some, and express personal wish that all men everywhere could be free." Abraham Lincoln, August the 22nd, 1862. So he signed the document September 1862 to become law January 1st, 1863. And of course, we're celebrating Juneteenth today because Texas was the last state to receive the news that the enslaved Africans were free. Of course, Lincoln was born February 12th, 1809, and thus we celebrate his birthday, the month of African American Emphasis Month, AKA Black, of the U.S. colored troops in 1865. And a day in history, and this was a great day, when Granger met with General Lee. I misspoke there, but when General Ulysses S. Grant met with General Robert E. Lee, Confederate Robert E. Lee, and they signed the document there that the war would end. So when that happened, that was a great day. And that brought about a lot on April the 9th, 1865 in Virginia. Of course, slavery pictures. And the document that was shared by Millery, another general there, Brigadier General, to the states of Maryland and Virginia that all slaves are herefore now free. And that was January 5th, 1863. And of course, you see the years 245 years is longer than that now. Slavery in the North America ended officially, and adoption of the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. President Lincoln made his Emancipation Proclamation in the midst of the Civil War among 3 years earlier, and the eyes of the federal government was to free millions of those enslaved in the southern states. So from the April document, April 9th, when Lee surrendered to Grant, we then have the Civil War or Reconstruction Amendments. They are the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, supposedly, the 14th Amendment, which granted the right to citizenship, and the 15th Amendment, which granted the right for African Americans to vote. Of course, we are reliving all of that today. And again, the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and the 15th Amendment. Juneteenth, Independence Day, we'd love to see that become a reality. So we're working very diligently to make it in that. And there's a saying, it says to go back and fetch it. Go back and look at your history, learn your history. In the times past, Africans were property and not considered human. And cotton picking was something that happened in Texas. Another economic reason why the enslaved Africans were slaved still for 2.5 years after the documentation was signed by President Lincoln in January 1st, 1863, freeing those in the South. And you can see a child here picking cotton. And I can relate to that because during my summer months, I would go visit my grandparents in Alabama. My grandfather was a farmer, had 100 acres of land. And I don't know if any of you can relate to a croaker site, but I would have a croaker site and use that to pick cotton, put cotton there. And so I didn't have to do it for a